It's time for Lake TV's LOZ Premier Properties from Slumberland at the lake. And now your host, Michelle Leisman.
Welcome to this week's episode of LOZ Premier Properties. I have Troy Meyer, Stephanie McKenzie, and the one and only William Holtz joining me this week. You are not going to want to miss it. Please stay tuned for a word from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back to get started. Are you ready to own your own piece of paradise and build wealth through real estate? Whether you are planning to relocate and live in paradise full-time or looking to buy a second home or investment property, my team and I can help. I'm Michelle Leisman, Senior Loan Officer with the Leisman Mortgage Team at First State Bank. And I know the journey because I've been on this journey. I bought my first piece of paradise here at the Lake of the Ozarks at the age of 18. Let's make your dream a reality. Contact me today.
Hey everybody, Daryl Cunningham with Slumberland Furniture at the Lake. We're in the middle of our mega sale. What's that mean? It means great discounts for every room of the house, and we have 0% 24-month financing. So you get the discounts plus 0% financing. Don't forget, we deliver the entire lake area. So come see us at Slumberland Furniture, where we're bringing happy home.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm joined with Mr. Troy Meyer with RE/MAX, Lake of the Ozarks, Jason Whittle, All-Pro Team.
You did good.
I only had to look at my notes one time. So I'm really excited today. Troy has always been a great partner of ours, and I want to showcase you and tell a little bit about your history. You're not a native of the lake, correct?
Well, yes and no. I mean, my 59 years old, and my parents bought their first house down here when I was 2.
Only men would give their birthdays
their
age right like that. So I feel the same way, right? We spend summers down here growing up, maybe not school, but still.
Yeah.
So you've been visiting since you were 2.
Yeah. So
Wonderful.
I've seen a lot of change down here.
My gosh.
Bought my first fishing boat, me and my brother, from mowing grass when I was 8 years old. So we were on the water since then.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, that's an entrepreneurial.
Yeah. Well, if you knew my dad, you'd understand.
So you live down here full time, obviously now.
We do.
And tell us about that. What brought you here full time, and what were you doing in your previous life?
So lived in Kansas City my whole life, raised my kids in Kansas City North, up by Berry and I-29, up by the airport, and always been a Kansas City native. I was a policeman in Kansas City. I worked for the police department for 22 years.
Wow.
And
thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, appreciate it. And that's why I have a real soft spot in my heart for first responders.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I did that for 22 years and spent the last 10 years in drug enforcement, and ended up as a narcotics tactical sergeant, which is like a SWAT sergeant. That's a more common phrase. And then came to the lake. I was actually sitting in my folks' house having a cocktail one day, and they said, well, why don't you think about moving to the lake? You can buy the rental house across the cove from us. And I said, I can't afford to live lakefront. And they're like, well, my dad's like, we'll make you a good deal. And anyway, long story short, we ended up moving to the lake in 2012, and we've been here ever since. My wife, Donna, talked me into this and said, you know what, you can sell ice to an Eskimo. You ought to be a real estate agent. And so that kind of led us to where we're at.
Yeah.
And in 13, I got my license and have been selling real estate down here ever since.
You guys are a team. She's still licensed as well, correct? Yep. And she was a realtor prior to you getting your license.
Correct. Yeah, we both work for Jason, and Donna works just with sellers.
Okay.
And I work just with buyers, and it works really well because she can concentrate on selling her listings, which we have featured a few times. And so, yeah, it works out really well.
Very good. Well, you know, the real estate at the lake, well, and really real estate everywhere can be cyclical, and it really is affected by election years. And it doesn't matter what's going on. It just seems that is such a big decision for people, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on. And I'd imagine you guys saw, we saw a little bit of that down here and are currently still.
We did, and saw a lot of it. It started with us, my first election cycle, I missed 12, so it was 16. And everybody, you could almost just see them sitting there with their wallet in their hand and just waiting. And November rolls around and they're just waiting. And then the election comes, and this isn't political, this isn't left or right, any of that. I'm not going to get into that. But they sat here and the election occurred, and all of a sudden everybody opened up their wallet. And January of 2017 was one of the busiest months we ever had for Donna and I. And then COVID rolled in 2020. And
that was a wild ride on the real estate industry.
And that was really an anomaly when it come to this idea of election cycle, because COVID was crazy. All you had to do was answer the phone and be breathing, and you sold a house.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was insane. And I know in our office, our closing coordinator, we average probably 190 to 250 closings a year for the entire team.
Okay.
And that year, I think Carol did 438 as a closing coordinator. It might have been a few more than that.
Wow.
Insane.
Double.
Insane.
Well, on the lending side, it was really insane because we had refinances on top of purchases. And it was, like you said, it was, and I can't say that word, anonymously.
An anomaly.
Anomaly.
Right.
I guess I try to make it more difficult than it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, the value of properties down here, just from 2020 to 2022, I bought and sold 2 houses within that time period. And it was phenomenal.
Some of the numbers that I use when I talk to folks is from January 1 of 2020 to December 31st of 2021. That's 2 full years. Lakefront property appreciated in value 67%.
Yeah.
And the normal average from like 15 to 16 and 16 to 17 and on was probably 8 to 10, 11%. And that was really good.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it went straight up.
Straight up.
And 2024, you get into it, it's exactly the way 16 was. And I'm
back to normal. I mean, it's still high in comparison, right? 8,
oh yeah,
10,
numbers are still very good. So basically, what we had was this level here. 2020 rolls in with COVID. It goes up here. It dropped a little bit, but now the new norm's up here.
And I don't see it going anywhere. What do you foresee the market doing in 2025? I mean,
well, I think it's going to be very busy. All the forecasting that's being done and all the news media information that's out there right now, I think we're going to be looking at a booming 2025.
Yeah.
I really do. And people are just going to have to come out of their pocket with more money, because lakefront property at the lake is what it is. It's just a excellent value.
It is.
And in 10 years, you'll look back and go, man, I bought my house for $650,000, yes. And look at it now, it's worth $1 million.
Right, absolutely. You know? And that's the thing with the lake. You know, I bought my first condo when I was 18 down here.
Oh, wow.
And you can't go wrong with real estate, period. I mean, it's a commodity that they don't remake.
Right.
And then in an area like the lake, that's always in high demand if you want it as your own primary residence, second home, or investment property, you just really cannot lose.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that we're seeing, of course, the lake's moving farther up the channel now. When we came down here in 12, you know, for the most part, we were busy up to the Hurricane Deck Bridge, which is 34-mile marker. Now we're up in the mid 40s, and we're moving that way. So it's going that way. One of the other things that we're seeing is the old fishing cabins that were built in the 50s and 60s. People are buying these properties with the lakefront land, and they're demoing everything, hauling it off in a dumpster, and then building their brand new house.
Really?
Because you can't create more land.
Nope, you cannot.
God says, this is what you got. This is all I'm doing.
No,
so, you know.
You're not going to get any more, and I don't see the state park opening up for sale.
No.
Yeah. I see a lot, Kaiser, the Gravois Arm also, a lot more development.
We're seeing a lot of activity up on the North Shore. And North Shore for a while was a little slower.
So can you explain what the North Shore is?
Okay, so the North Shore of the lake, you go from basically the Bagnell Dam, which is 0-mile marker, up to about the 8, and then down the Gravois arm.
Okay.
Everything on the north shore of the lake there is referred to as the North Shore. W Highway, all that up there.
Okay. So that's where I grew up.
Okay.
Down on the 2-mile marker on the North Shore.
Okay.
Go through Eldon area.
Sure.
And then you've got the west side, which is Camden.
That's where I live.
That's
Yeah.
where you live.
Sunrise Beach, Laurie, Gravois, some Camdenton over there.
Okay.
And arms of the lake, you're gonna have some of the big Niangua up in there too. So.
Okay. Because my last house was at the Four Corners in Lynn Creek, and I was really shocked how many people didn't know what the Four Corners were.
Right.
But to your point, it stopped pretty much right there. I mean,
did.
it's at the 31, but a lot of people never traveled that far down the lake.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, there's a big bluff across from where I live, and when we came down here, my mom and dad bought their second house in '72. There was one house on the top of that bluff, and that bluff runs almost a mile long. And right now, I think there's 3 lots undeveloped.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in 50 years, that's what we've seen.
Well, you know your way around the lake, and I appreciate you coming on, and it's going to be a good year. 2025 is going
Yeah.
to slide in, and
It is. I tell everybody, take your opportunity. Don't look at it and say, well, gosh, prices are so high compared to what they used to be. Well, yeah, they are. And in 2012, prices were high then when you looked at 1992.
that's exactly right.
So,
Yep.
I mean, it's going to continue to go up. It's
Demand's
a huge value.
not going to decrease by any means.
No, and the amount of activity and things down here with Oasis being built and some of these other, it's just crazy.
It's a great time to get in.
It is.
It might seem like it's high, but it's relative to the market and in the year.
Yeah,
and where we're at.
investment properties are still a big deal down here. People want Airbnbs and VRBO activity, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Well, if you guys want to know anything about the lake, any aspect, North Shore, West Side, all of the above, Troy would be happy to share that with you and show you around. And there's no better time than now to come down and invest. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank
and
you.
we'll be
Yes,
right
ma'am.
back after a few words from our sponsors.
Hey everybody, Daryl Cunningham with Slumberland Furniture at the Lake. We're in the middle of our mega sale. What's that mean? It means great discounts for every room of the house, and we have 0% 24-month financing. So you get the discounts plus 0% financing. Don't forget, we deliver the entire lake area. So come see us at Slumberland Furniture, where we're bringing happy home.
Are you ready to own your own piece of paradise and build wealth through real estate? Whether you are planning to relocate and live in paradise full-time or looking to buy a second home or investment property, my team and I can help. I'm Michelle Leisman, Senior Loan Officer with the Leisman Mortgage Team at First State Bank. And I know the journey because I've been on this journey. I bought my first piece of paradise here at the Lake of the Ozarks at the age of 18. Let's make your dream a reality. Contact me today. Hey folks, welcome back. We have the one and only William Holtz, owner of Lake TV. How are you?
I'm good, and probably good, the one and only. And not only could the lake probably not handle 2 wheels, I'm not sure the Holtz family could handle 2 wheels. So probably a good thing, the one and only. But hey, thanks for having me.
We love it, though.
This is cool. I get to be here every Tuesday for a cup of coffee and watching, the LOZ Premier Properties project and this show grow and all the excitement it's got rolling the next year. I'm like super excited to be here today.
Yeah, and you're never on this side.
Right.
You're always on this side.
Right. Always asking. the
Always
questions.
asking. So we're gonna drill you today.
Yeah, I didn't have to
What-
prepare at all, which was nice.
Yeah. What goes on in that head? So LOZ Premier Properties is the newest episode or show on the lineup of Lake TV. Do you want to go through all the shows that you have now?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are familiar with Cup of Coffee and Weekend at the Lake with David Leatherberry, and of course Happy Hour with DJ Kyle. And then we do stuff monthly, like the monthly market update with Jessica Bruce. You guys are familiar with her coming on this show. But so those are some of our regular content, high school sports, stuff like that. But yeah, the LOZ Premier Properties was just something we're like, man, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we were like, man, we got to do something. And then we real estate is massive down at the lake, really, as real estate goes. The Lake of the Ozarks goes. And so how do you encapsulate or cover that and give people an opportunity? Well, it's challenging because the home market, especially the lake, has been so up and down, and it's hard to know what realtors are going to expect or project for. And so with you kind of said, I like the Lake TV platform. I like a weekly or bi-weekly show at this point in time format. Let's see what we can do. And in that, like, what a cool option for local realtors, like 50 billion and more coming, into the market. Like, how do you stand out?
How do you stand out?
It's a great question, right?
Right. I know there's your listing videos, you've got billboards, print ads, your normal marketing and branding aspect, but really it's such a personal business.
Yeah. When
you're buying and selling a home. And how do you help a realtor stand out and show their personality and get to know them?
Yeah.
And how much better than having a conversation live and seeing it firsthand? So that was kind of the brain.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned
behind
billboard and print, and you got radio, right?
Radio,
and so all of
yep.
those bring one and sometimes two of the important four variables to the table, right? With billboards, you can see. With radio, you can hear, but you can't see. So you look at sight, you look at sound, and the big one really is emotion. And so with video, like, hey, I can see it, I can hear it, and kind of getting to know their personality through that should lead to invoking emotion, which, I mean, as a realtor, like, yeah, you mentioned so many of those options, and that's not even like a tenth probably that our realtors are faced with every day. Like, how do you stand out? So I think it's important as you see content creation, right? Like, realtors now today, they want to be content creators. It's like every realtor at the lake's like, let me be a restaurant guide and let me be, they do so many different things.
Because you're trying to stand out.
You are.
And bring value to the consumer also, right? Those that are coming into the lake.
But I always say, think about it in your terms, like as a realtor. Like if you go on vacation, are you going to want a local realtor to tell you where the best place to eat is or what the best events are or to talk sports? Or it's like, well, probably not, right? And so how do those realtors stay relative in a content creator market without spinning their wheels? It's expensive to create video. It's expensive to edit video. It's expensive to take your valuable time away from listing and showing houses to go build content. And so we feel that with LOZ Premier Properties, we're gonna allow you to showcase like your listing. What's more important as a realtor than getting that listing out in front of the masses?
Right.
But if it doesn't work, like sometimes you buy radio or you buy TV or you buy an LO profile ad, like our favorite magazine, one of those things, and you may not get return on your investment right away, and so then what? Well, the nice thing is with LOZ Premier Properties, stays digital. We send you a digital copy of your interview. We send you behind the scenes photos. We even send you a vertical reel that's organically designed to perform better organically on social media. And so, for $600 or $700 a month, or you can do bi-monthly for $750, like, I don't know where else you find that. And so for realtors now, like you're setting your budget for 2025, like LOZ Premier Properties is worth a shot, in my opinion. We're really passionate about it. Come sit with Michelle, work with the valuable team around you with Stephanie, Megan, and Spencer. And get yourself out there, get your listing out there.
Well, and it becomes part of the listing package as well. So sure, we're going to highlight, spotlight, and talk about the beautiful listing that they have currently, but when you go on a listing appointment, how are you showcasing yourself as taking it to the next level?
Right.
Well, guess what? I'm going to have it on this platform, and these are all the things the ways that I'm going to showcase your listing and sell your house quickly and get it out to the mass market, which just brings in more potential buyers.
You hit the nail on the head. I know we got to wrap up, so I want to end with this as far as like, hey, you're competing. Realtors, you're competing. Like, who is going to get that $800,000 listing or that $1.3 million listing? Well, if all the realtors have a billboard.
$21 million listing.
Correct. But if all the realtors have billboards, it's like if you can showcase them. Brady has done a great job on this show. Like he says, my homeowners cannot believe what I'm doing with their listing for them. That gives you realtors so much credibility to those homeowners and those people. Who am I going to choose to sell my home? Somebody that's making the extra effort and getting it to the masses.
Absolutely.
No-brainer.
Absolutely. Well, his energy is contagious.
One way to look at it.
I'm so happy that you joined me, and you articulate a lot of things so much better than I do with the value that we're trying to bring to our realtors, to our real estate market, and really, it's been fun fun time so far.
I appreciate you, and we all have different strengths. You know way more about real estate, you know way more about the mortgage industry, and everybody says you're way nicer to look at. So we all have our strengths.
There's that, right? Well, thank you. All right, folks. Well, as always, a pleasure having you guys watch, having a pleasure having watching Will do his thing. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michelle.
Are you ready to own your own piece of paradise and build wealth through real estate? Whether you are planning to relocate and live in paradise full-time or looking to buy a second home or investment property, my team and I can help. I'm Michelle Leisman, Senior Loan Officer with the Leisman Mortgage Team at First State Bank. And I know the journey because I've been on this journey. I bought my first piece of paradise here at the Lake of the Ozarks at the age of 18. Let's make your dream a reality. Contact me today.
Want to get to know local leaders better? It's as simple as tuning in to Lake TV's Community Spotlight Show. Local leaders, celebrities, heroes, and unknown heroes. The Community Spotlight Show every day on Lake TV.
Ready for this episode of The Now? Are you ready for this episode of The Now?
Oh, I am so ready for this episode of Then and Now.
Only knew the shenanigans before we start rolling.
Someday they will show the bloopers, and then they're going to have to bleep out all the bloopers.
So we have our resident historian, Stephanie McKenzie, that is here. And we're going to talk a little smelter and a little ore.
This is true.
The smeltering ore.
So, the smeltering ore. So, just in case, if you have not heard,
I have not.
Before the lake was the lake, there used to be this adorable little town called the Iron Town. IRON. We had to have a talk about this earlier. So,
well, I'm like, is it Ironton?
No, it is
it's
not.
Iron Town.
Iron Town.
There was a lot here before the lake was actually here.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this episode
Yes.
because, you know, we've got beautiful properties we're showcasing, but before them, there's a history.
This is true.
Yeah.
So with the iron smelter, you actually can still see the iron smelter. You can boat by it. You can drive by it, even though it is on property. There are cabins that have been renovated and sold that are close to it.
Yeah.
Ameren UE, basically, they take care of the old iron smelter, and they are trying to make it a historical landmark, which I think would be fabulous.
Absolutely.
But the history behind it, so the iron smelter it's right there in Bollinger Creek Cove, mile marker 44. Just in case if you need to know that.
Well,
don't drive around and just think you'll be able to find it.
Right,
So,
exactly. Yeah, but you'll be able to boat by
Yes,
and see
you can.
the actual structure itself.
Which is really, really interesting. So when this came about, this was back in the 1870s. It was like 60 years before the actual creation of the lake itself.
Still am boggled by all of the
Right.
like inhabitants, I guess, if you will, of these hills.
Yes,
before
because
the
we
lake was
just
actually
think,
here.
oh, it's always been here,
It's
you
just
know?
the
Yeah,
Ozark
it's like, no, it's a man-made lake.
Yeah.
So it's man-made. So, and I'm probably going to mess up the last name now that I'm thinking of it, but James Eiseminger, hopefully that is close to it, I apologize. He
What
discovered...
series that it was.
Yeah. He discovered a rich iron ore.
In the ground.
Yes, in the ground in the western Camden County area.
Okay.
And so for him, he knew that there was money to be made from this deposit. So he was able to get two partners, Alex Campbell and then a Dr. Condi, who partnered with him. They came up with, well, let's come up with, an iron smelter. We will have it built in this location. We're going to buy all this ground, and we're just, going to have an abundance of goodness and make a lot
Right.
of money. How people look at it.
That is the American dream.
This is true.
Yeah.
So when they did it, they built, it's a massive smelting furnace. I just can't get enough of this word.
But you compared it earlier to a...
like a big chimenea.
Yeah, big chimenea.
So those people are like, oh, well, I know what a chimenea is.
Right.
So
what is a smelter?
except this is 38 feet high.
Right, just a little bit larger.
Just a
than
little
most.
larger, so you know. But the really awesome part about it was, so they ended up purchasing over 2,000 acres of land. They were able to take, I think there was 3 locations that they mined to get the ore. They then had to figure out, all right, as we're building this, how many workers will we need? So they had about 200 workers, which was about 250 total people. And that's where the little town,
It's not a
Irontown.
small operation.
Right.
I mean, too. Yeah.
Right. And Irontown then was built and developed. So you had your own little grocery stores, you had your little cabin houses, you know, the post office, all the things that you needed at that time. What they were looking at is that they had this state-of-the-art furnace that was built in 1872, and it was made out of dolomite blocks, which of course were quarried here in the same area. They took those blocks and they were able to smooth them all together. So there's no mortar in it at all, which kind of boggles my mind because I don't get it, how it all sticks together. But
it obviously works because it's still stuck together.
This is true. So, so they had quarried that nearby, and for them, this was a magnificent piece of, you know, art in their eyes because this is what they were going to be using. The ore was found in the area, which is technically, if you want to get technical, it's a brown hematite. Still don't know what that means, but you know, but if you're one of those people that do, good for you,
right?
And so they would mine it from all 3 locations. Now, what they are saying is that where the actual smelter is, that's the 4th location. But they never got around to
underwater.
Yeah, they never got around to doing what they needed to do there. But the furnace itself, which I thought was pretty interesting, they had to heat it to 3,000 degrees. So in order to do that, they had to use the timber that was on the land that they also purchased.
Yeah.
And they would take anywhere between 35 and 50 oxen to, you know, go ahead and transport this up and down and back, you know. And so I was like, my God.
Very labor intensive.
A little bit.
I mean, everything was back then because they didn't have the technology we do now. But,
no.
Okay.
And so they would do this. They would bring the timber down. Then they would stack it on top of each other. They would make this massive fire. They would have to then take this preheated air and push it through the sides of the smelter itself. And then, of course, as they're doing that, they would have a steam engine that was also by it. And it would just be this continuous flow of this really hot steam air that would be going in there. And that then would molten iron would be separated from the ore. And then that would trickle down into a mold.
Very good.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
So were they successful in their dream of making it big?
No, they were not. So what they were doing is when they would have the solidified iron, they were transporting it down the Osage River, Missouri, Mississippi. It would go to St. Louis to where it would be sold to, at that time, they had their competitors, which was the Coke and coal as well. Coca-Cola, that is all I can think.
I know.
So I'm like, I wonder if they're related. But they
Where it really started.
Right. But that was also their big competitor as well. So what they had realized is that the cost for making the smelter was way more than what they thought it was going to be.
Sure.
They had all of the workers that were there that were then being paid kind of more on a basis of an IOU. Yeah. And so they started using that as the bartering service around the town where no real cash was being used. It was just a lot of IOUs.
No.
So 6 to 8 months into it, they start realizing that they're losing a lot of money. Water levels start to go low. They can't transport
oh my goodness
as quickly as they need to. And so they realized,
Dang,
well,
Osage.
guess what? We are now bankrupt. And so the smelter then is closed. The town stayed for as long as it could and kind of dwindled out as time went on. But a lot of the old cabins are still there and have been renovated.
Well, the town changed hands a couple times, so it stayed. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the lake, of course, itself was created. Here come the waters. And so the smelter itself, all that you can see of it anymore is just 12 feet of it. The rest is all underwater. And Ameren UE, they take care of it and they make sure that it's safe and well preserved and eventually make it into a historical marker. Right.
Excellent.
So,
Love it. And it's still standing.
It is still standing, which is amazing. They said that there was only a few blocks at the very top that became loose and dislodged, but really all in all, it's still there.
More than likely a boat ran into it. We're being...
I don't know. I mean,
for real.
nobody around here does things like that.
No, boats don't run into anything around here.
But they do, and that was kind of the other thing with Ameren. They want to make sure that it's protected. And so, because especially the base part of it, because once that gives way, the whole thing is going to go.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure that they protect it and keep it there forever. It's a staple of the lake. You can go by, take pictures. They have, they have individuals, obviously, that live around it. So, to them, it's a neat part of history if you didn't know about it.
44-mile marker, check it out, folks. Just another neat piece of history of what the real estate was before it is what it is now.
Yep.
So, as always, thank you. All good things have to come to an end, folks. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of LOZ Premier Properties. As always, I love visiting with Troy Meyer, William Holtz, who does not enjoy visiting with him, and then, of course, Miss Stephanie McKenzie. I hope that you visit us next on the next episode. Until then, we'll see you later.